Stop! Still don't know what to play? Boom! Forget about it! I present to you the top 15 games that are perfect for everyone. Do you want an atmospheric, unique simulator? Here's Death Stranding 2. Prefer hardcore medieval realism? Kingdom Come 2 is already here. And how about the craziest survival game, The Altars? Watch until the end to see which game will be yours for the next 150 hours. And also find out which former PS5 exclusives suddenly came out on PC. Another former Sony exclusive, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 from Insomniac Games, also came out on PC this year. The start was not the best due to optimization issues and bugs, but most technical shortcomings seem to have been fixed. The game can be described as a magnificent action game with a controversial plot. Despite the questionable narrative, the gameplay and presentation are flawless. The boss battles are excellently staged, have become harder, and consequently more interesting. Traversing the city on webs between skyscrapers remains extremely enjoyable due to the high speed and smooth animations. The open world is generally similar to the first part, but enlarged by the addition of Brooklyn and Queens. Now the player can switch between the two Spider-Man and use web wings for faster movement. Gameplay-wise, the game is impeccable and is recommended for those looking for a beautiful combat system and presentation. However, if you are expecting a captivating plot with drama like in the first part, the sequel might be disappointing. Death Stranding 2 on the beach. Let's be completely objective. When you start watching material on this topic, the priority for high-budget, single-player, and high-quality projects becomes obvious. Death Stranding 2 on the beach is the ideal embodiment of these criteria. This atmospheric simulation of movement in a post-apocalyptic world by Hideo Kojima is already available, though currently a PlayStation 5 exclusive. The release on the PC platform is expected to happen in about a year, following the precedent of the first installment. It's highly recommended to familiarize yourself with the original Death Stranding beforehand. Firstly, it's an outstanding project in its own right, and secondly, knowledge of the backstory will be extremely useful for fully grasping the complex narrative of the sequel. The key gameplay concept remains the same. In the setting of an unusual post-apocalypse, the player, as Sam, Norman Reedus, must transport various cargoes between remote points. The visual design of the world deserves special attention. It is stunning in its beauty and variety of landscapes, ranging from gloomy wastelands and mountains to abandoned cities, rivers, and villages, where time seems to have stood still and anomalous entities wait to complicate your task. The fundamental delivery mechanics are preserved. Players still need to build bridges, roads, and shelters, which facilitates movement both for themselves and for other users thanks to asynchronous online interaction. Other people's constructions and warning signs can be a salvation, and leaving your own objects is an expression of network solidarity. The game's graphics are worthy of a separate review. In my opinion, this is one of the most visually impressive games of the year. Special attention should be paid to the detail of the landscapes and the facial animation, which achieves a cinematic level of realism. If you own a PlayStation 5 console, I strongly recommend taking the opportunity to experience this masterpiece. The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered. For open-world RPG enthusiasts, and especially fans of the legendary Oblivion, this project was a real gift. A high-quality remaster was recently released for the game. Considering that the original The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion was released in 2006, almost 2 decades ago, its gameplay mechanics might not have stood the test of time for modern players. Thus, the remaster is an excellent reason for newcomers to familiarize themselves with the classic. This project is capable of completely absorbing you for several months. The main storyline remains unchanged. The player, a prisoner, must save the world after the death of the emperor and his family. In parallel, cultists open portals to the world of demons, Oblivion. The role-playing aspect implies complete freedom of action in closing this breach. Players have an enormous open world with a multitude of biomes, NPCs, enemies, quests, and activities at their disposal. You can explore hundreds of dungeons, from ruined forts to temples, finding treasures or facing dangers. The combat system has become significantly more enjoyable and smoother compared to the original. There is a traditional leveling system for various skills. Visually, thanks to the use of Unreal Engine 5, the game is worlds apart from the original, which, however, requires a corresponding level of hardware. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth! Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the complete opposite of the above, offering a fantasy and unusual world that definitely finds its audience. The game, which was a temporary PlayStation exclusive, is now also available on PC. This is the second part of the Final Fantasy remake. If the first part was a lengthy prologue, Rebirth is a full-fledged, epic open world. The plot continues the story of familiar heroes searching for Sephiroth, who is once again plotting to destroy all life. Here, the real magic begins. Huge fields, picturesque villages, ancient ruins, and of course, chocobos on which you can travel the world. The game offers a full open world for free exploration instead of the previous corridor-like locations. The combat system has been improved, becoming even more dynamic, with the ability to switch between heroes and combine their abilities. The plot has been expanded, with new moments and some changes added. The soundtrack, traditionally for Final Fantasy, is a treat for the ears, so listening with headphones is strongly recommended. Knowledge of the previous part's events is not mandatory. Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon, a high-quality open-world RPG focused on the themes of medieval times and magic, is Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon, which was released from early access this year. The game world is based on Arthurian legends, where the Round Table lies in ruins and darkness seeps from everywhere like a cursed syrup. The player takes on the role of an ordinary prisoner who, however, holds the soul of King Arthur himself, and his task is to unravel the cause of what is happening and stop the spread of darkness. The world is divided into 3 main zones, includes over 200 side quests, many NPCs, enemies, and offers complete freedom of progression, reminiscent of the Elden Ring concept. The player is released into the world and determines their own path. You need to choose a suitable combat style and engage in battles. A major plus is that the world is not just packed with content, but is interesting to explore, which is rare for many modern projects. In addition to combat, the game features crafting, alchemy, fishing, cooking, and even farming mechanics. The developers claim a playthrough duration of about 70 hours, but given the replayability and the incentive to explore, this time can easily exceed 100 hours. If you are a fan of Dark Souls or Elden Ring and are looking for a similarly challenging and immersive experience, this project will be an excellent choice. Kingdom Come: Deliverance II! Undoubtedly, one of the most anticipated and significant releases is Kingdom Come: Deliverance II, the sequel to the outstanding first installment. This game offers a harsh medieval world with the maximum emphasis on realism. There is no fantasy, magic, or dragons. This is a game for those who value historical authenticity. Although the sequel can be played without knowing the first part, it is recommended to familiarize yourself with the original. In the second part, the player again controls Henry, who has evolved from a simple blacksmith into a warrior. The action takes place in Bohemia, where intrigues and wars abound. To become a master swordsman, you must train. To read, you must attend school. One of the main features is the huge and, importantly, living living open world. Fields, castles, villages, every NPC leads their own life and reacts logically to the player's actions. The combat system remains complex, but has been enriched with new techniques and the ability to land critical strikes. As in the first part, there is a high probability of sudden death from a random bandit in the forest. If the first part was a survival simulator in a realistic Middle Ages, the sequel is that same realism taken to the maximum. The project is highly recommended, but be aware that it is extremely time-consuming. Atomfall. Atomfall can be characterized as another open-world survival simulator, distinguished by an unusual setting reminiscent of the classic Fallout. The plot unfolds after a nuclear war, but the setting is northern England. The open world is the British countryside, which can look idyllic until the player encounters radiation and mutants. The map is divided into several diverse zones: the Cumbrian Hills, forests with ancient ruins, villages with abandoned pubs, and nuclear bunkers, providing plenty of places to explore. Being primarily a survival game with RPG elements, it follows the standard formula. The player searches for food, metal, and fabric in houses to craft weapons, from rusty bats to makeshift bows. The crafting system allows you to create ammunition, medkits, and traps. Given the world's dangers, the combat system is a mix of stealth and melee, requiring the player to situationally combine these styles. RPG elements are also present. Interaction with non-player characters, NPCs, includes trading, threats, and persuasion, and the decisions made can influence the world and the plot. For example, killing a merchant might deprive you of the opportunity to complete a certain quest. Like a Dragon, pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. For lovers of Japanese peculiarity and madness, you should definitely pay attention to the new spin-off of the Like a Dragon Yakuza series. Imagine the situation. Goro Majima, the one-eyed psychopath with knives, wakes up on a beach with amnesia, and 5 minutes later, he is commanding a pirate ship. This is another offshoot of the series, but with an absurd plot twist. The plot is pure chaos. The amnesiac Majima gathers a gang to find the treasure of an ancient ship, fighting pirates and Yakuza in Hawaiian shirts along the way. The world is a mix of open seas and islands where you can move freely, fight locals, or participate in mini-games, such as a card game with dragons. It has everything the series is loved for: absurd quests, karaoke, and the ability to recruit, for example, a tiger. The open world is not huge, but is lively and detailed. The gameplay is pure mayhem. The combat system has returned to the classic beat-em-up, abandoning the turn-based elements of Infinite Wealth. The hero uses 2 combat styles that must be combined. Real-time ship battles have been added: maneuvering, firing cannons, and then boarding and hand-to-hand combat. The playthrough will take an average of 25 to 30 hours if you don't get distracted by the numerous side quests, like rescuing monkeys for a zoo. Recommended for those ready for no-holds-barred pirate craziness. Monster Hunter Wilds! A new installment, Monster Hunter Wilds, recently launched on Steam. The game's concept, based on hunting monsters in an open world, has existed since the days of PlayStation 2. Unfortunately, the project faced problems with optimization and technical state bugs at launch, so diving into it right now might not be the best decision. The main idea is simple. The player finds themselves in an open world and must hunt a huge variety of monsters. Each monster is unique and requires a special approach and tactics, which fuels interest. The game features huge biomes, from deserts with sandstorms to forests with rivers that change depending on the seasons. The change of seasons affect the monsters and forces the player to adapt. The gameplay is deep: 14 types of weapons, each with new features, and the ability to carry 2 types of weapons and change them on the fly. The local feathered companion is no longer just transport, but also an assistant. It carries cargo, potions, resources, and participates in combat. For fans of long hunts and crafting, the game is capable of consuming an entire weekend. Recommended, but with a caveat. Don't expect the hardcore challenge of the old parts and be prepared for the current technical shortcomings. Dune: Awakening. The Steam release initially received a reserved reception, but by the time this material was prepared, the situation had significantly improved, and the reviews are mostly positive, which is quite encouraging. As known from the films, the game world is Arrakis, an extremely harsh planet where the scorching sun and the threat from sandworms make survival a constant challenge. Otherwise, in terms of gameplay and mechanics, it's a familiar survival simulator. Players will have to gather resources, craft, and build bases, from simple shelters to impressive fortresses. Given the dangerous world, the combat system is an integral part. Battles are fought against both mutants and other players, using swords, blasters, and even vehicles. There is also a faction system. Completing their quests allows you to influence the Landsraad, the council that determines the political situation on the planet. Despite belonging to the survival genre, the visual execution of Dune: Awakening is of high quality. The best immersion in this beautiful world is achieved undoubtedly in cooperative mode. JDM, Japanese Drift Master. The racing genre has been struggling recently, especially in the open world segment. However, in May of this year, JDM, Japanese Drift Master, was released, which became a real gift for fans of JDM culture and drifting. Essentially, it's a simulator that immerses the player in the heart of the Japanese drift community. Here, much like in Initial D, you can get behind the wheel of the legendary AE86 and perform sideways slides on mountain switchbacks, delivering tofu or sushi. The game is not limited to one car, offering a wide selection of vehicles with options for visual and technical tuning. Importantly, the game is not a hardcore simulator. You can drift with a steering wheel, a gamepad, or even a keyboard, making it accessible even to casual players. There are story and side missions, including deliveries and participation in underground races. The main highlight is undoubtedly drifting. The ability to fine-tune the suspension, tire pressure, and clutch allows you to achieve the perfect slide. The game features 22 licensed cars and several fictional models. This project is a love letter to JDM culture, offering excellent physics and customization, although it might feel somewhat unpolished at release. Avowed. On February 18th, a new game from Obsidian called Avowed was released on Steam. It should be noted right away that this is not Skyrim, but it will certainly find its place among RPG fans. The action takes place in the world of Pillars of Eternity, another game from Obsidian. Newcomers shouldn't worry, as the game provides enough explanation to understand the plot. The plot puts the player in the role of an Imperial envoy sent to investigate a mysterious plague on one of the islands. Despite the serious premise, the game has enough humor and lightness. The open world here is presented as large, detailed zones that encourage exploration, psychedelic jungles, caves, a greeting to arachnophobes, and cities where every NPC might offer a quest. The gameplay is a real gift for action RPG fans. The combat is fast, allows for switching between two weapon sets on the fly, and involves companions who provide real help. However, if you expect the depth of an RPG system like Baldur's Gate 3, Avowed is simpler. Choices are present, but the world's reaction to them is not always significant. It is more of an action game with role-playing elements than a hardcore simulator. There were optimization issues at the start, but patches are actively fixing them. The game will take about 30 to 50 hours of unhurried playthrough. Avowed is a lively adventure cocktail. Not a masterpiece, but very engaging. Assassin's Creed Shadows. This game, from which many expected extremely low quality, ultimately showed an average result. For the first time in the series, if you disregard the precedent with the Conditional Syndicate, the game offers two unique protagonists, the African samurai Yasuke and the stealthy, extremely agile ninja Naoe. This approach dictates the presence of two different playstyles. When playing as the ninja, the focus logically shifts to stealth, acrobatics, and using special gadgets. While with the imposing samurai Yasuke, the emphasis is on heavy frontal combat. Notably, the combat system is implemented quite decently. It may be inferior to the level of Ghost of Tsushima, but it allows for effective and cinematic takedowns of opponents. The open world, traditional for Ubisoft games, is massive, filled with diverse activities, and visually appealing. Feudal Japan and its various corners are truly worth exploring. Criticism of Ubisoft's open worlds often concerns repetitive grinding and boring side quests, but there are usually no complaints about the visuals and landscapes, which can be counted as a definite strength of the game. The Precinct. The Precinct is a recent police simulator styled after the early GTA games, but with the difference that the player is on the side of the law. To keep it brief, let's look at the key points. The player takes on the role of a newly minted officer who is investigating his father's murder while simultaneously cleaning up crime in the city. The city, although fictional, strongly resembles 1980s New York, which gives the game a special atmosphere. Rainy streets, graffiti, cassette players, and cars of that era, including, presumably, the legendary 1980s police Dodge Diplomat. Gameplay includes patrolling the city, on foot, by car, and even by helicopter. The main tasks are issuing parking tickets, arresting thieves, and participating in chases after gangsters. The chases, especially the night ones, done in an isometric style with spectacular siren lighting, are pure pleasure. The Precinct is an excellent choice for those who want to feel like a hero from an old movie with thrilling chases and shootouts. The Alters. The Alters arguably stands out as the most unique survival simulator among recent releases. If you are not yet familiar with this project, let's look at its key features. At first glance, the main idea seems quite standard for the genre. A distant future, an astronaut crashes on an unknown planet, the entire crew perishes, and the surviving hero seeks salvation. The concept is made unique by the ability to create your own clones with different personality traits, the so-called alters, to increase your chances of survival. It's important to note that the open world here is not an endless procedural sandbox, but a well-designed and hostile planet segmented into zones. Each zone contains the necessary resources and, of course, dangers. The central game mechanic is managing the alters. These are your copies, each possessing unique skills. One handles equipment repair, another gathers raw materials, and a third might show a tendency toward idleness. Given the differences in character, managing the team becomes a difficult dilemma. Traditionally for survival games, it requires building and fortifying a base, gathering materials to protect against atmospheric phenomena, and exploring ruins for valuable artifacts. The survival mechanic requires careful balance. You need to monitor the supply of oxygen, food, and the base's energy provision. Otherwise, the alters might start to rebel. Additionally, you can experiment with technology to upgrade gear and resolve moral ethical dilemmas, such as who to prioritize, the original hero or his copy with a difficult character. The Alters is an original project that shouldn't be missed this year if you're looking for something unique in the survival genre.